Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Today, we're going to be covering an article out of the University of Calgary, which is in Canada, for those of you guys who don't know. I thought that this would be an interesting take as it's kind of in between this writer. She is kind of writing the line between two sides. So let's go ahead and get into it. In today's contention, it's called Embracing Obesity as Your Brand, the Fatal Flaws of the Fat Acceptance Movement. In today's contentious social climate, the fat acceptance movement emerges as a controversial force, challenging norms and promoting body positivity. As someone who is obese, I appreciate its embrace of diversity, yet I can't ignore the tension between celebrating this diversity and the undeniable health risks tied to obesity. The movement teeters on a double-edged sword between genuine empowerment and potential health denial. So I would disagree with this. I think that fat acceptance, really as a concept, is flawed. I think that it's something that to its root, at its core, is rotten. So I don't take a gray area, nuanced approach with fat acceptance. I think it's wrong to accept obesity for a lot of different reasons. I think it's a huge reduction in quality of life. It causes a lot of other issues. A lot of times people don't really consider them or they don't talk about other things. I've described how being super morbidly obese can even change your personality in a way that's negative because it's so stressful. It puts you in such a flight or fight mode. And whenever I look at fat acceptance, I am always looking at it as obesity acceptance, which is toxic. It is a toxic concept, just completely. It should not be promoted at all. I think it's awful. Weight is a mutable characteristic, and honestly, just as somebody can gain weight out of control, they can also keep their weight at a healthy range. Okay. So you have to understand that that's where I come from with this. I don't view it as a good at all. I think it's bad from the beginning because accepting a lower quality of life unnecessarily, not preventing numerous health issues for basically no reason. I just don't see any value in it. So no. I specifically have an issue with the term fat acceptance, accepting being fat. I'm against it, period. So a lot of people get weird about that because we live in a fat acceptance culture, especially in the West. So people are like really obsessed with, oh, what does it matter? Oh, this, oh, that, whatever. Sure. Why does anything matter? Stupid to me. It's a very stupid argument, but that's what people will say typically, and I just don't even entertain it, honestly. Anyways, that's where I'm coming from. So let's go ahead and continue. The radical roots of the fat acceptance movement trace back to 1967 with Bill Fabre's establishment of the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance. Today, influencers on platforms like TikTok continue to promote the cause through engaging and sometimes controversial content online. Plus-size model Jordan Underwood famously claimed that intentional weight loss is not a body-positive act. So you have to remember too, fat acceptance is technically fat enforcement. They don't typically argue for people to gain weight. That does occur sometimes on rare occasion, but typically what they want is if you are fat, they want you to stay in your place. They want you to know your place, sit down, and shut the F up. That's basically their overall message to fat people. It's very, honestly, in my opinion, it comes from a lot of projection, toxic ritualistic behavior, right? Projecting onto other people. I've talked about this sort of ecosystem of E followed by the letter D, where people that have it, they have the trauma that activates it, they enforce it in other people, whether it is on the side where you're not eating enough or the side where you're eating too much or in between. People enforce it. That's why, in my opinion, a lot of times support groups and things like that, they can be an issue if they're not in, like, especially online, which is, where you get things like Tumblr in the 2010s with the more not eating enough side, or you get the B followed by the letter E followed by the letter D side with fat acceptance TikTok. So there's a reinforcement, and this occurs on the other end too. A lot of people don't acknowledge that there is a toxic ritualistic behavior that involves being super morbidly obese or gaining a lot of weight. I always try to bring that to the forefront on this channel though. So when we see something like this is a toxic ritualistic mindset. This is meant to reinforce you staying fat so that this person feels better about being fat. It's an externalization and a projection upon you. So it's an enforcement of you to stay fat. It is targeted directly towards fat people and enforced. And this hasn't always happened just online. This can also happen within families and in other ways, because again, this doesn't come from TikTok. This comes from a mental health issue that has been around for quite a while. Okay? All right. At the same time, Jalen Cheney launched a campaign urging airlines to offer free extra seats to overweight passengers, targeting what she views as fat phobia in the travel industry. These social media influencers are shaping the movement, seeking to rid the world of fat phobia while encouraging their fans to embrace all body types. However, in doing so, they risk minimizing the scientific realities linked to obesity. Here is the uncomfortable but important truth. Obesity is fatal. Yes, thank you. I really appreciate this article just for saying this. This is huge. A lot of people do not say this. They don't take it seriously. It is not taken seriously whatsoever, especially in America. I can speak from an American perspective primarily. It is really not taken seriously, especially at lower levels. It's not taken seriously whatsoever. Even when I was super morbidly obese, people would often tell me I was exaggerating about my health issues. People would often tell me, oh, you have hypochondria. You have this problem, you have that problem. Like you're imagining it. It's an anxiety thing, blah, 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 blah. No, when you're super morbidly obese, you're probably not imagining it. I'm going to be honest. It is, in many cases, a very dangerous place to be. And a lot of people chug along in that zone for a long time. It's not good. It is not a good thing. And I do say, and I do believe, in general, women can last about 10 years longer with the effects of obesity. But it still comes for you. And remember, as a woman, it's going to take you longer to get out of it. So it's less imminently damaging initially, but there's more length of time required to get out of something like supermorbid obesity. So you have to acknowledge that even if your body can handle it longer, it's going to take you longer to get out. So you have to be aware of that and start the process and get it moving. Okay? Conditions like heart disease, diabetes, and some cancers are closely connected to obesity, contributing to countless preventable deaths each year. The movement inadvertently endangers individuals by glossing over those realities, failing to protect those it claims to champion. Exactly, because it's not about helping anybody. And I think that that's what this person doesn't necessarily understand. It's not about helping people. It's about distraction, it's about projection, and it's about enforcement. That's what it's about. And it has to do with a mental health issue that people are externalizing onto other people. And that's all it is. It's not about actually helping people. I need you guys to really understand, even if it dresses up like a political movement, if it uses terminology of a political movement, if it thinks that it's all these things, it isn't necessarily that. It's a mental illness that some people that don't necessarily have that mental illness, they buy into it and they repeat the talking points for clicks and views. So there's that element too. Or people who are pressured into thinking these things, who maybe don't have these issues and don't create content, But in general, there's social enforcement and shaming and all these things, especially when fat acceptance has successfully tied itself to other political causes. People feel like if you speak out against fat acceptance, that means that you're speaking out against other things you may believe in. So they've kind of linked that together and lumped it all in. And that is super toxic. Ooh. Sorry about that. This microphone, man. I need to tighten this. That is super toxic. So it creates this real massive S storm, we'll just say, which is where we're currently at. You also have people that are the equal opposite to it or who react to it or backlash to it. And they can be extremely harsh and almost equally unhelpful. Okay? So it's a precarious situation when it comes to obesity. But this movement and the underlying mental health issues are at the root of what is causing it on a mental level, which is what I've been talking about this year. I did talk about physical stuff last year, which are things like PCOS, hypothyroidism especially, I talked a lot about. Whereas this year I talk constantly about toxic ritualistic behaviors. Last year I constantly was saying hypo, like I was a Pokemon and my name was Hypo. There's a reason. There's a method to my madness. But this year we're looking at the mental side of it, which is equally important because if the mental side is off, you will likely regain. Remember that regain almost always comes from mental health, especially if it's extreme. I read a Reddit post where somebody lost 200 pounds and gained 200 pounds back. That is a mental health issue. Okay. We got to just keep that real. Okay. So it's very important. If you have these problems mentally, you have to address these problems or you will not get out of this. You will convince yourself that it's a physical issue, even if it isn't. And if it is a physical issue, remember there are treatments. There are things to be done about it. So why aren't you doing them? It all goes back to mental. It's very, very, very important. Okay. Anyways. Okay. Personal choice is pivotal in this discussion. Viewing obesity as an immutable condition strips individuals of the empowerment to make positive health decisions. Perfectly accurate statement. Love it. True empowerment stems from knowledge and the ability to make informed choices that encourage well-being. Yes, totally agree with this person here. Great. While conditions like polycystic ovary syndrome present real challenges, everyone possesses the power to impact their health, and dismissing this truth fosters complacency, not courage. Exactly. Remember that even if it's going to take you longer, it doesn't mean that it's going to take you forever. And that's a really, really important thing, especially when we're talking about toxic ritualistic mindsets in the brain. We have to accept that it can take years. Remember, you guys, this health journey I've been on, it started in March of 2021. It's now November 2024. I love that I had to check. It's been a minute. Yes, it's starting to go faster now in terms of weight loss, but there were mental things I had to do. There were physical groundworks. There was a physical groundwork I had to lay before I started to sustainably lose weight. There was a lot of stuff. I was in a very low place when I started my health journey. So it took a long time. This isn't the I lost 200 pounds in 1 year story that is sold to most people, which in my opinion is not the likely outcome. Most people do not have that outcome. I would say it's much more likely you'd be losing between 30 to 50 pounds a year. So if you're 200 pounds overweight, it could take 2 to 3 years, 2 to 4 years even, especially as a woman, because like I told you, it goes a little slower, but you do have more time. Balances out, relatively anyways. So let's go ahead and continue. Linking personal identity to weight compounds the issue, 100%. Transforming valid critiques into perceived personal attacks, 100%. Remember, linking personal identity to weight is a toxic ritualistic mindset. It is not real. It is mythology. It is it is chain email logic. It is not real. It is if you don't, if you scroll past this TikTok, you're going to have bad luck. That's the level, okay? For any of my Gen Zs that are watching that maybe don't know what a chain email is. That's what that is. It's not real, okay? Events like FatCon and the Fat Joy Writing Workshop illustrate how weight can become a central part of one's identity. It's a horrible thing. You never want to identify with that. Merging health discussions with identity can unintentionally glamorize unhealthy behaviors as self-acceptance. Yes. Ironically, this weight-centric focus intensifies the very obsession with appearance that many seek to dismantle 100,000%. Remember that obsession with appearance is part of toxic ritualistic mindsets. It has to do with the disorder. In fact, I would say even if you don't have this, you don't have the disorder. It's pivotal, or not pivotal, that's the wrong word. It is extremely important. It is a trifecta. It's a trifecta. It has to do with, we'll say, overindulgence, but it's a very specific type of it, restriction, and obsession with appearance. It's those three things. If you're not having one of them, you don't have toxic ritualistic mindsets, or E followed by the letter D. They all have this there. This is a huge part of it. Okay? Okay. The era of sipping the Kool-Aid of false positivity that ignores vital health issues must end. 100%. Real acceptance builds upon scientific truths, embracing all facets of well-being, even the uncomfortable ones. I agree. We need to accept reality. How about reality acceptance? I think that's a great place to start. Not being delusional. That's very good. It's very important. Remember, this is not even just a delusion. This is very harmful. Okay, it's a very dangerous mindset, a very dangerous path to walk down in your mind. This type of thing, it kills people. It's dangerous. So you can't give it any wiggle room or anything. You have to reject it completely because it's not real. It is not real. And I know it can feel so real. Trust me, I know. I dealt with it for over 10 years. A long time. Probably, I don't even know exactly when it started. I barely even know when I didn't have it. But I started very young. And it was severe from 2009 till 2020. It was very severe. So I know it. I know how real it can feel. I know how real it seems, but it isn't. So just be careful, you guys. And the first step is you have to understand that you're doing this. You have to understand that this is happening, because most people that have it, they're in denial. I was severe and I was in denial until 2014. So from 2009 till 2014, I was in complete denial about what I was doing, even with it being so severe. So I think it's really important to raise awareness, because a lot of people are not aware of what they're doing. So, yeah. I will just say, if you're super morbidly obese, you really need to consider if this is going on. If you have E followed by the letter D, you're at a much higher risk of having that. It's much more likely that you do than you don't. You may not, but people don't get to that level for nothing. So there's something wrong, and it needs to be addressed regardless of what it is, okay? Okay, facing the harsh truths about obesity requires decisive, informed action. Through an honest approach, the movement can genuinely uplift those it aims to support, transcending rhetoric to create a meaningful, lasting impact. The fat acceptance movement stands at a crossroads. Will it choose a path of genuine empowerment or stay stuck in dangerous denial? It can't be real because it involves accepting it, and you shouldn't. So, like I said, at its root, it's rotten. So we need something totally different. Okay. But yeah, I appreciated this article. I think this person was so on point with the vast majority. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. So thank you so much, Josie. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow. We're going to do the podcast. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.